With For the Future revealing to the audience the existence of multiple collectors combined with glimpses of those paintings of them and Titans together in the collector's house, I got the itch to make a video regarding all the history we know between these two powerful races. Due to there not being a ton of detail on the events that occurred between the two groups, it's going to be pretty hard to figure out what exactly happened in chronological order, so take some of the ordering I do with a grain of salt. As depicted in the collector's quote-unquote bedtime story, collectors are godly creatures that watched over the demon realm in ancient times, occasionally collecting one of a specific creature to preserve their existence, essentially doing what Curator Pons did in that one Amphibia episode, only on a more extreme scale. And if anyone resists this, they have the option to scorch said planet they are collecting from, which could imply other planets in the demon realm have been cleansed by collectors in the past. However, it begs the question why the collectors didn't wipe out the main demon realm islands after Ida's owl beast escaped the clutches of one of them. Also, if it wasn't clear enough, the collector shown in Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door is not the collector we know in the present day. They share the same voice, but the paintings inside the collector's home suggest the one chasing the owl beast was one of the 3 or 4 robed ones overlooking planets, with our collector being the smaller one that's light purple shaded and a lot smaller than the other 4. Plus, the vibe the taller one gave off felt a lot more sinister than our collector's almost childlike innocence with the way he talks to others. Always down to play a game with someone regardless of what they look like, where the other one was almost getting joy out of capturing something else. Plus, he didn't recognize the owl beast inside Ida at the start of the episode, so there's that. It's probably not exactly like this, but the way these paintings portray our collector reminds me a lot of the dynamic Pink Diamond had with the other 3 diamonds in Steven Universe, being the smallest of the quartet, having a very immature personality, and not being taken too seriously by the ones who are supposed to stand on equal footing as them. Over the course of the ancient past, the collectors began to form a rivalry with the Titan race, mainly due to the fact that Titan magic had the power to cancel out collector magic, with the paintings inside the collector's house depicting many of the fights that occurred between the two races. One showing 2 collectors trying on the skulls of fallen titans, kind of like how the Titan trappers do, with a larger titan overlooking them in the background. Said titan looking very similar to the one from the wall art scene in the temple that King was born in, sharing the same long beard and everything. With another showing the same titan battling alongside a much taller and lankier titan that's breathing fire. This might be a stretch, but I'm starting to think that lanky titan is the one that became the corpse known as the Boiling Isles. Their body shapes are extremely similar to me. There's also a painting of the present day collector surrounded by baby titans that all look like King. It's hard to say, but it almost looks like he's cowering in fear rather than getting along with them though. But it makes more sense if they actually are getting along, since this collector showed no fear when meeting King and brought up how he wanted to play with him in the past before he was locked up by King's father. Him being afraid of those baby titans would be very out of character, to be honest. And maybe I'm crazy, but it looks like there can be eggs seen in a couple of these paintings, and that egg could be King inside his egg since King took a really long time to hatch. This war would continue to go on for ages, though confirmed to have ended before the Deadwardian era, aka around the 1660s on Earth, since Philip Woodabane had come into contact with the collector when he was already imprisoned in the In-Between realm. The war resulted in the near extinction of almost every titan in the demon realm, and potentially the rest of the collectors too, with the sole survivors being King, the current collector, and possibly King's father. The reason I believe the other collectors may have died in the stalemate of war or from natural causes is because none of them are around anymore. They have the ability to go down to the surface to collect things if they choose, so if more of them were still alive, don't you think even just one of them would have been down to the surface already to take King's head? I mean, hell, I feel like even the existence of the Titan trappers are further proof that there aren't any more collectors out there besides the one we've met. Hence why these guys carry out the duties of their one and only collector god in hopes he may return one day once another Titan is slain. I feel like their belief system wouldn't be like this if the other collectors were still out there, you know? King's father, of course, being a possibility as well after seeing the Titan-like figure running on the ceiling of the In-Between realm that Luz thought she hallucinated. I said this in my previous video already, but I don't think this guy would be shown at this point in the story if he didn't serve some kind of major significance to the plot, which I don't think would be fulfilled if he was just some random Titan that had no blood bond with King. Him being the father makes the most sense to me. So if that does end up being the case, that means at some point during the war, King's father and the main collector faced off against one another, with King's father already hiding King away on the uncharted island prior to this, engraving a specific seal symbol on the roof of King's nursery to make sure other collectors would never find his son. Perhaps the reason King's father decided on sealing the collector with him instead of trying to kill him was because of the childlike innocence he possessed, resulting in one of those situations where even though he couldn't bring himself to fight this kid, he knew because he was still part of the collector race, something had to be done regardless. So he went with a sealing, which in hindsight could be considered worse than just putting him out of his misery, since all the collector wanted was people to play with, and putting him in the mirror prison left him alone with no genuine contact with anybody for presumably thousands of years. I think King's dad was maybe more so thinking thinking about how he could survive himself though, maybe hoping that one day he'd find a way out of the in-between realm and reunite with his son after all the collectors are gone. It's hard to say though. I hope at least some of these questions will be answered in the finale. Of course, after the collector was found by Philip in the 1660s, the two of them would keep in contact over the years on and off in order to develop the draining spell, a spell intended to wipe out all magic life on the demon realm if it meant the collector would be freed from his prison. This went on even before King hatched from his egg, which happened roughly 8 or 9 years before the present timeline. He would of course be found by Ida while she was on the run from Belos, where she would take him in as a housemate and or pet, staying there for most of his life, where he would of course meet Luz and go on tons of adventures with her. Meanwhile, the collector would continue to talk to Belos on the side, even forming an indirect bond with King due to the ritual that the Titan trappers performed on him, leading to King having visions of the collector inside the in-between realm whenever he fell asleep or spaced out, with the penultimate events of the collector being tossed aside by Belos once the draining spell began, and King making a deal with him to free him if he agreed to stop the draining spell. King being the only one who could even do it since he's a Titan, it was heavily implied that only Titan blood or the direct touch from another Titan could free the collector. Now we're in present day, where the Boiling Isles has become the collector's new playground to enjoy with his best friend King. Or is it now? Well, I think that just about covers everything we know about the conflict between the Titans and the collectors. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling the crew wanted to flesh out this history more thoroughly throughout the series, but of course, we're not given the chance due to season 3 being cut so short. I'm still hopeful that once the Titan, who is likely King's dad, gets freed, that we'll have a little bit more of a clearer scope and context as to why he trapped the collector in the first place, and what really happened all those years ago. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's anything significant I might have missed out on regarding the history between these two parties, or what you're hoping to learn about what happened in the finale. I would love to know your thoughts. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like down below, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.